This time on Shift Points, we do everything in our power to get this thing running, and we kind of come short a little bit. Thanks for joining. Parking outside, and there was a ton of He started this project. Found a piece of brass he's going to take. Alright everyone. Okay, well today we're changing things up quite a bit. We're trading in the garage for a barn. My grandfather had a 1923 Fordson tractor. He restored it himself, basically went over every piece, restored it where it would run, and every year my family had a old timers thrashing reunion is what we called it. I think is what he usually called it. So every year they would get a crop of wheat, they would grow it here on our family farm, and then they would harvest it and they would bring it down here, and he had a geyser thrash machine that he would pull off of this Fortune tractor, and he would basically a show on how this was done, how people used to thrash their wheat to live on each year. And my great grandfather, that's kind of how he made a living. He took that same thrashing machine and actually took it around Buncombe County and Madison County, and would go to people's farms, thrash their wheat, and then move on to the next one. He'd go for weeks at a time and just travel around and then circle his way back here to Madison County. So what we're planning to do is get on its 100th anniversary, get that Fortune tractor running. If you guys have been following us on social media, you've seen this one coming for a few weeks now. But we're here today in kind of a recon run. I'm going to show you guys the tractor. We'll get inside here. I'm going to show it to you, kind of give you an overview, let Dad tell you a little bit more about it because he knows more about it than even I do. And at that point, we're going to start looking and kind of seeing what all we need to do to get this thing to run. It probably last run about, 13, 14 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. That was kind of the last time we had one of those old timers thrashing reunions, and so we're going to see what it's going to take for us to be able to get it running this week, and hope you guys are going to like it. I think it's going to be pretty neat. We're going to take it around the farm when we get it running and kind of do what we used to do with it. Alright, so Dad is going to tell you more about these two tractors. So we do have two of them. This is a 1924. The one back here in the back is the 1923, which is the one we're going to be working on. But Dad's going to give you kind of a rundown on the history of these two tractors for the Freeman family.
This is my grandfather, my dad's dad, bought this tractor. I don't remember what year they said he bought it, but he thrashed with it. He actually did custom thrashing. He'd go to people's farms and he'd thrash their wheat with this tractor. And there's, 5 or 6 of them traveled together, and he used this tractor, and he sold it. I don't remember, probably in the late 50s, he sold the tractor. Well, my dad got to thinking about it, wanting the tractor back. He found it in John Bell's and Main Auto Parts junkyard, and it was still just like it was when Bob sold it. Bob had it, my grandpa had it. He had put rubber tires on the front because it made it easier to steer. He wasn't doing it for a show. He was using it. So it still had rubber tires and wheels on it when Daddy found it. Daddy went and talked to John Bell and bought the tractor. Brought it home. We pulled it apart. I was like 7, and he let me drive it in the garage up there. When he split it, took it apart. He split it in the center, took it apart. Don't remember what he fixed, what needed to be repaired in a transmission or the clutch or the flywheel. I don't remember what he did. Probably put a clutch in it, I'd say. And then we got it running. Well, then that was in, like I said, probably 65, and we got it running, and then it set. He'd crank it every once in a while and run it occasionally. But then Grandpa had kept the old thrashing machine. It's down here in the shed. It was an old geyser thrashing machine. Well, he kept the thrashing machine. Daddy got the big idea to raise a small crop of wheat and thrash it. You gotta help him. And that guy, after the first year, that guy quit him. So anyway, he started. That was probably I think it was in '88, and then he did it from '88 to 2010. But while he was doing that, this is the 24. This is Grandpa's old tractor. While he was working with this thing, he got interested in it, he retired, and in this barn, he bought 5 or 6 other Fords and tractors, and he'd take the fuel tank off one, he took the wheels off another one, rear end. He assembled this out of different tractors, but the basic center section of the tractor is in 1923. So that's what we're going to try to see if we can make it run. It's been 100 years, so I think the last time both of them ran was in 2010. So we're going to see if we can get that, see if we can get it going.
Little winter cleaning on the Fortune tractor there.
Several winters.
Several winter cleanings. So like Dad said, Papa started doing those thrashings in like '88, and I was born in '94, so I pretty much remember these tractors my whole life. Now, Dad always jokes that Papa welded so he could farm. And Dad always jokes that he learned how to weld so that he didn't have to farm. Well, that kind of got passed on to me. I had never spent much time down here on these tractors, on this farm, things like that. I know almost nothing about them. I've only driven a tractor a couple times in my life, to be honest with you. So to work on these is going to be pretty interesting and a lot to learn for me. And I'm already looking at it. It's pretty wild how these things work, and I'm going to have to get Dad to kind of tell you more about it because he knows more than I do, even though he doesn't know everything either. But he's got these things cleaned off here, and you can kind of see the workings. Looks like this would be where the fuel drains down. Is that right, Daddy? This is gravity fed here.
There should be a petcock right here off the fuel tank.
Yep. So that's fuel
and it
shut
runs
off.
hard line from there over the carburetor.
Okay.
And there's no fuel pump, of course. It just gravity feeds.
Right. Gravity feeds here, down this line here, and this is the carburetor for it right here. You can see the exhaust system run out the back. Spark plugs. These things were maybe the original LS. They've got coil packs for each cylinder. So over there on the other side, I'll take you and show you that is the coil box, and that, like I said, each one of those fires a coil to fire off each cylinder here. And you can see there's 4 of them. So, but the first thing we're going to do, you're going to take this off here.
That's the plan.
So we're going to try and take this off. What we want to know is how good the inside of this fuel tank still is. It really should be okay. The sides on this barn, I mean, hopefully they're okay. The insides of these barns, they are open because this is an old tobacco barn. But in general, this thing's been sealed up for all this time, and other than the fuel being really old, hopefully the fuel tank is in okay condition. But as I said, that our air compressor over here actually has a hole in the bottom of it.
That's what I was going by.
So maybe I'm just being hopeful. So are both of these for the fuel tank?
Gasoline, kerosene. You crank it
there's
on
two
gasoline.
separate.
Look here.
I see that, yeah, for starting
Gasoline,
only.
there's a short gasoline tank that you got it cranked and warmed up. You warmed the motor up with the gasoline, and then you switched, I can't remember which way. It seemed like there was a valve. I don't know if he eliminated it, but there was a valve that you switched actually from gasoline to kerosene. And there's an ignition timing control.
Right here,
That's the throttle.
Oh, it's the throttle.
That's the choke right here. Boy.
So this lever right here is timing control, just like on a Model T, right?
Yes.
They had the same timing.
Yes, but you pushed it. I think you push it down to here, and it disengages the current. It stops the engine. Maybe a fuel shut off. Seems like it might be a fuel shut off. It's been so long since I messed with it. But you change that ignition time. You push it up to there to make it run on gasoline, bump the timing up, and then you roll the timing down here to actually let it run on kerosene. Let it run on kerosene because kerosene was so much cheaper.
So much cheaper, right? Yeah, you can see when you do that, it rotates. So this is like the rotary button up here?
That's a timer. This is a timer right here.
Okay.
Is that rotating on? So okay.
When you move that, it changes this. And there's actually a lever out here, I guess, to do it if you were working on it. You can manually do it also right here. Huh, okay. Gotcha. So we got the lid off the gas tank. Let me try with this one. We got the lid off the gas tank. It's going to be really hard to see here. But he actually sealed the bottom of the tank, it looks like. There appears to be some rust coming through the sealant. The gas is definitely killed. It smells terrible. But in general, the tank's probably not too bad. And probably compared to back then, it's probably still not even, probably not too bad anyway. So I think the first thing we're gonna do here is, right here is I showed you guys a minute ago, the fuel line. There's the fuel filter. We're gonna disconnect this hard line right here. Looks like it's like an inverted flare fitting maybe. And we're gonna get a bucket. We're gonna drain all this old gas into that bucket and go ahead and get that out of the way. And open this up, maybe let that evaporate out over the next couple days until we're back down here again. Yeah, we also took this off over here, and this gasoline tank is completely dry. He must have never actually used it, and it's only like this big, so you could probably only hold maybe a gallon, maybe 2 tops, I would say, in that tank, and then the majority is in this, which is why he, was running all that fuel in here, because it's got this whole length, or most of the length of this to hold the fuel, so you got a lot more time out of it. So as usual, things didn't exactly go to plan. We were planning to drain the fuel on this thing. We went to where you drain the fuel there at the petcock, and it wouldn't. Every time we would move the lever, nothing would come out. We were able to drain just a little bit out, but I'm pretty sure there's like a little bowl on that I think that was all that drained out of that. And for some reason, I don't know if it's the old, that's like me and Dad were talking about, I don't know if it's the old gas. Maybe that got that whole unit there kind of gunked up and crudded up to the point where it won't even gravity the fuel out of it. So we're kind of figuring out what to do. So it'll be a few days before we're down here again, but we'll go home and kind of get a plan together on what we're going to do to try and get this thing going. And we'll let you know what we do when we get back down here. We're back down here working on the Fortune tractor. It's been a little while since we were down here. Kind of had a few little things we had to take care of, but we're back down here this evening. The plan is we're going to take that little valve that you guys saw last time that seems to be gummed up. We're going to take it off and let the fuel drain out of it. We bought a old baking pan here, I think, that we can stick in here and get that to drain into that. Then we're going to take that valve up to Dad's shop. He's got it's kind of a small ultrasonic cleaner. I think we can throw that in there and see if we can get that thing ungunked, whatever varnish and junk that's in it. Maybe we can get that out of there. But if we can get the fuel drained out of this tank, we think the tank's probably good enough to run. Should be fine. We're gonna put a few fuel filters in line to kind of keep any crud from getting into the carburetor. But I think that it should be okay to run. So that's the plan here. We're going to go over here, get this thing pulled off, and see if we can get gas all over us. Alright, so you can see here, man, we've got this coming off, and this smells almost as bad as that gas that was in the 55 truck whenever we pulled the injectors off of that thing. But this is all we've got, and you can see on the top of this valve, it's completely rusted, almost solid. So that's why we weren't getting anything out of it. Luckily, the threads weren't ruined, honestly. But this came out really easy. It's got shoulders on it here. We took an adjustable wrench and got it out. And we're just having to let this drain kind of slowly. I was trying to feel up here. Yeah, it's a pretty small hole up in there. So it's completely open. This is just what we've got. So we're just going to have to let this drain for a little while. We should have thought about this. We should have thought of a way to prop this pan up.
Yes, yes.
So it's going to end up being another kind of short day here. I told you guys the plan was to get that drain or the valve off and take it home and clean it. It's really gunked up. It's really terrible. The tank here on the actual tank itself after the gas drain down is pretty bad too. So probably what we'll end up having to do at some point would be to pull this tank off, take it out, get it cleaned real good, and get it coated on the inside maybe. So we'll probably just end up using like a snowmobile or like a boat tank or something to run off of, just so that we can keep it from making such a mess and getting throughout everywhere else. But this is kind of what we ended up with. We've got that drain or that valve did finally kind of start running, so that's good. And Dad came up with this piece of aluminum here and kind of got it set up here to where it's slowly draining, and it's draining so slowly that we would just kill a ton of time just sitting here watching it drain. So we're going to kind of let that drain over the next little while and then head back up to the house and kind of figure out, kind of plot our next move, I guess. But like I said, I think what we'll probably do is just get a boat tank, sit on it, so we can at least drive it a little bit here in its 100th year. So that's the plan. Let's see if we end up sticking to it, though. All right, we are back working on this 1923 Fortune tractor. We've taken a few days to kind of thought about what we were going to do. We're not in the barn today because it's really, really cold outside. But what we decided to do was we're going to come up with a makeshift fuel system and then also got the ignition system today. We went up to the Napa store and they luckily had everything that we needed, we believe at least. And so we got a 1 gallon tank here, 1 gallon fuel tank, and then we got enough brass fittings that we're going to basically make a fuel system that will, this fitting will go into there, and we'll have this assembly out of it. So we'll have a gallon of gas, we'll have this that'll run out of it, we'll have a piece of hose that comes off this and runs down to the fuel line that goes to the carburetor. So we'll set this up on top of it just so that we can get it running because at the end of the day we are, what is today? The 19th? 19th. It's 19th. We are, 12 days away from the end of the year. So if we're gonna have this thing running before we run out of the 100th year, we've got 12 days to do it, and Christmas is in here too. We have even less than that. But we're gonna work on getting this fuel tank altered, see if we can get this kind of going. And then the other thing we got was a 6-volt lantern battery, and they had one of these in stock at the Napa store. Basically what you end up having to do, or what Papa would do with this, he would take this and he would jump start it. You know, he would run a power lead here to one of the coils, to the coil box, right, Daddy?
He called it hot shot.
Hot shot it. So he would run a power lead up, and then he would ground it to the block of the running gear of the tractor, and he could do that. Now that tractor has like magnetos built into it, and then after you jump it, those will start running, and it starts running on its own. We'll just have to look at that. But so we went ahead and got one of these 6-volt batteries so that we could do that with it. So we're gonna get the fuel system made up, get this, and then we'll be basically ready. We'll later, maybe next year sometime, we're gonna pull the fuel tank off of it and get it cleaned out. It looks like he sealed it at one point, and that sealer's kind of is already starting to come apart, and I think it's made its way into the fuel tube that's in the tank itself, and it's got it stopped up. We worked on it and tried to get it running. We blew air up into it. You could get air up into the tank, but as soon as you take the air off, it would run just a little bit out of that fitting that's in the tank, and then it would stop. So it stopped up for some reason. At some point, we'd like to pull that off, get it cleaned out good, and then get it sealed up to where we can actually use it. But like I said, for the sake of getting this thing running in its 100th year, this is going to be our fuel tank. So like I said earlier, what we're going to end up doing is on one side of this fuel tank, either the front or the back, doesn't really matter, we're going to take and drill a hole here at the bottom, and this threaded fitting will actually go up in here. We'll take some O-rings and try and make sure we get this sealed up good, but that'll get fitted in there. And you saw Dad, I think while I was talking, testing out this, we can actually run this crooked wrench down in there and hold that other side of that fitting, and we'll be able to tighten it up. And then once we do that, that's going to go into a union fitting that we found here that'll go into that. Then we have a quarter turn ball valve, so that's going to allow the flow to happen. And that'll bypass that valve that I cleaned. If you guys have been following us on social media, that'll let us bypass that valve for the time being. So that's the quarter turn valve, so we can shut this off, and this fuel tank will just kind of end up being a fuel system for us in the future. So that we can have this, turn this, got the fitting coming out, and then like I said, a rubber line will come off of this and go down to the carburetor, and we can just continue to let this thing grab. Here, take a Sharpie and mark a bit. This one, right?
Let's go. Mark it on that right there. Mark it right there.
Okay, I was making sure I was on the right step.
Yes, you was. think I'll leave it like that.
Yeah, let it thread
I don't think I got it all the way to 5/8, but I want to thread it into that.
in. Right.
Okay.
Somehow we were able to get an O-ring started on those threads, and then we've also got the nut started. So if we can get this thing to tighten up, we'll have the hard part locked away here. All right, there it is. We got some water in here to make sure it's not leaking. Looks like our O-rings are doing their job. We'll keep an eye on this for a little while we let this kind of set up. But yeah, so that's going to be that'll be our ball valve there. Let the fuel run out and feed the carburetor. We'll set that guy up on top of the fuel tank. Should be able to get this thing started with that. It is another day here. We're back here in the barn with the tractor. You guys saw us make up our makeshift fuel system, and we've got it rigged up now. We've got everything connected up to it. I'll head over here and show you guys. We used the fuel line that was on in here. Took this section of hose off and run the hose from the fuel can here into the filter, and then this was the original piece that was already here. We've got that connected back up, and that's all. Should be ready to go. Now, since it's been so long since this thing was started, we're gonna have to Papa called it hot shotting it. He said you'd hot shot it. He took a 6-volt. This is just a lantern battery that we actually got at the Napa store. They had one in stock. We couldn't believe it. We're going to take the positive, put it on one side of the coil. We're going to ground the other side to the chassis, and should just be able to touch it off on the battery, and we'll see what happens. We don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, if we've got the fuel on, we'll get that turned on whenever we get this rigged up. If we've got that going for us, this thing might start. It's been 15 years or so, give or take, since it last started, so we'll see what else we get into here. But we're thinking today we might actually get to hear this thing run for the first time in a long time. So we'll find out.
You got an ohm meter, do you?
Not here. Check out that loop with a zip tie. That's some high quality engineering there, Daddy.
Shut up.
All right, first thing we're gonna do is try and roll this thing over.
Do not wrap your thumb around that. Got that right there.
All right, break the thumb.
If it kicks back, it'll break your arm. All right. 60-watt oil. Ain't gonna be easy. All right. Let's see if we can fuel leaks.
Ain't hard to turn over. Yeah, no joke. Turn on the fuel system then.
Let's see. You can turn them.
Okay. Fuel should be on. I hear it glugging. I don't see any leaks.
You don't see anything leaking? Really?
Really?
I'm shocked.
Somehow. You got a bungee cord or something we can wrap around that?
I don't know.
Alright, so you've got the positive side attached here. That's where the magnetos are. And you've got the negative side just up here on the chassis, or on the engine block. Yep. Okay. So now we're just gonna try and
choke set. I've got the ignition timing on. The brakes in gear, I'd say. No, it's not.
Okay.
Turn it. Yeah.
Woo! No joke. a timing in a certain spot?
It's wide open, just turn it wide open.
Oh, that's what I
Turn it wide open for gas.
I didn't know what wide open was.
Right there, that's shut off right there.
Okay.
That's wide open.
Okay.
That's the time in advance which we need for gasoline.
Gotcha.
The choke. Choke should be on now.
Okay.
All right, crank it again.
Okay, ready?
Go ahead.
Woo! Man, that thing's hard to turn.
Turn it again.
Okay. So the first try was not successful. Dad's pulling one of the spark plugs out now. Whew, I'm winded. This cold has got me.
There ain't no fuel in it. But they're clean.
Yeah, they are really clean. Check spark.
Yeah.
You ready?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Whew, no spark. We don't know if we've got fuel or not. This ain't a workout, man. I've had a little head cold and whew, it's wiped me out. Okay, well, that went pretty much how we expected it to be honest with you. We're not getting any fire. So we had everything hooked up. We think we had it hooked up right at least. And we're definitely not getting any fire on these coils. So we're actually going to take the coils with us. I want to show them to you. They're actually wooden. And they've got contacts and terminals on the bottom and sides. This is where the power goes in. And these are supposed to start firing, and that sends voltage to the spark plugs themselves, so it'll start running on its own. So either the coils are bad, or we have something hooked wrong, maybe. I don't think we do, again. But anyway, so we're going to take these coils to the shop, take our 6-volt battery with us, and see if we can figure out how to get them firing. All right, guys, that's going to kind of wrap us up for this week. I know we didn't get this thing started, but I am certain that next time that you are with us, it will be the beginning of January. But I am certain that this thing is still going to be running in its 100th year. We just kind of run out of time here at this point, and I wanted to make sure I got a video out this week. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thanks for tagging along with us and watching us and kind of letting us know. Put it in the comments if you think what we're doing is kind of nuts, and if we're doing something wrong or right, or tell us all them things. We appreciate that. And if you've enjoyed it and you want to see this thing run, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and you're going to see this thing run next week. I promise you're going to see it run next week. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.